All right, what's up, you guys? At the time of this recording, we have obviously crowned a new champion, our first champion, rather, and the first event of the 2025 North American Hardcourt season is in the books with Alex de Minaur denying Alejandro Davidovich Fokina in the final of the 500 down in Washington, D.C. And boy, did it turn into an unexpectedly great final. Uh, you know, Plot twists, left and right, and yeah, just elite tennis drama down the stretch of that one. Also, reason to reconvene with quite a bit of news swirling, a lot of opinions flying ahead of the now for the first time 2 week tune-ups in the Rogers Cup and Canada in Toronto, Montreal, followed by Cincinnati back to back. And also just taking stock ahead of the year's last major and this last quarter, third, whatever you want to call it, of the season. But obviously, we got to start with DC. Got to talk about that final because I don't know. Match of the year was probably locked up back in June with the Roland Garros final, barring anything unforeseen happening the rest of the year. But I don't know. Second place is kind of up for grabs, and you can make a good case just off of the sheer theatrics of this Washington, D.C. final that, you can make as good a case as any that it deserves the number two spot. Um, you know, Certainly scratchy level for most of the first two sets and pockets throughout. But I don't know. I don't know how you pass up the drama of that match. We were just getting hit with everything out of left field in the closing stages of that match, and yeah, I mean you gotta skip to the third set of that one. Throughout much of the first two sets, it was a lot of errant, scratchy play, but Demonor definitely he cleaned it up in the second set. Three unforced errors, rolled ADF in the second set, and I thought ADF did really well. He did a lot of really good things. From the standpoint of keeping his composure because there were a lot of moments here where he could have folded and he never really crumbled. I mean, certainly you can definitely fault him for the 5-3 30 love passage, and then of course the tiebreaker. But he did a lot right, down the stretch of this one, and knowing what we know, in that he was going for his first title, and obviously earlier this year in the Delray Beach final against Kecmanovic, having, uh, you know, the two championship points there, especially the first one where I remember there were some crazy saves, retrieval from Davidovich Fokina to keep the point alive, but just couldn't bring it home, and ended up losing the match. But just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, yeah, this is just agonizing stuff for him. A real cruel beat, uh, because he got even closer in this one, and he never really folded. And again, just did so much right, and that really from the get go in the second set after getting rolled in the deciding set after getting rolled in the second set, he got to set the tone, stem the tide early, didn't let it get out of hand, got a couple early holds on the board, then breaks a 2-1 with an utterly spectacular, short hop pickup off the backhand, cross into the open court after Demonor had rifled a forehand down the line on the run at the end of his range. And a bit of an all or nothing shot, and Davidovich Fokina just half volleyed it into the open court. It was beautiful. And after he got that hold at 3-1, you just knew, it was gonna be all mental to get those last two holds home. And it's worth mentioning as well, he had a love 30 in the 1-4 game, but Demonor and this is the theme on his end. I mean, he was absolutely tough as nails in this match. At so many different points facing adversity, uh, he was just ice cold, super, super clutch at every turn. And I think here, 1-4 love 30, he won 4 straight points. It was more great de Minaur than bad ADF. And then obviously, yeah, Davidovich Fokina got the one hold, got to 5-2, 5-3. You were wondering, and I know a lot of people watching this, especially that had the perspective of ADF. He's had a career year. He's been improving so rapidly, but still this starting to be a bit of a monkey on the back situation of trying to win his first title. I heard on the broadcast that I think they said, he's the only guy of the top 25, of the top 30 even, that is titleless, I believe was the stat that they shouted. And yeah, the longer it goes, the better Davidovich Fokina gets, the more that that's going to be on his mind, and obviously the rate of improvement, how talented he is. I don't think that lasts for long, but boy, is that scar tissue going to be deepened coming out on the other side of this final. Because 5-3-30 love, you're like, can we avoid the heart attack here? Could he make this stress free? And the moment he hit that double fault at 30 love, it's literally the like the gritting teeth emoji where it's like, oh, that's not good. And yeah, I mean, this was a brutal choke here on ADF's side at from 5-3-30 love. I don't remember what happened at the 30-15 point, but double fault at 30 love. 30 all. He actually got a beneficial net cord off de Minaur's return that allowed the return to sit up, and he had a pretty routine. If not put away, would have put him in the ascendancy in the point on his +1 forehand, and he sent it wide. And then to get broken at 30-40, they got into a bit of a neutral ball rally, and he ended up sending a forehand long, not even close, like missed by about like 2-3 meters. And yeah, it really could have snowballed on him at that point. And this is where it just makes it all the more agonizing, is that he came back, shrugged it off, and reset really, really well in the next game. He was going for it. He was charging to finish. At 4-5, and de Minaur did help him out. I think doubled twice, if not 3 times in the game. And this is a monster game, pretty much where the match was decided. Honestly, I think went over the 15-minute mark. And obviously ADF holds 3 championship points here. But even before that, this is gonna get lost in the shuffle. But 15-30, it could have been 2 more championship points right there. I mean, de Minaur came in. Davidovich Fokina went the right way, hit a really, really good pass. And this was a tricky volley. He was dipping down at de Minaur's shoelaces, and he sort of chopped at it. Not sure that it was intentional to be that good, but the ball just died on a drop volley where there was just no chance at getting to that. Obviously, after that, ADF did, from the deuce, yeah, really from 15-30 on, he did so well to just keep staying in the game and giving himself chances. Even fended off a couple de Minaur game points to end the game earlier. And yeah, getting to the 3 championship points, I mean, this was all clutch de Minaur. There's not a single one I thought that ADF, did something wrong. I mean, the first one, Demon, I think on the +1 ball, the first chance he got, followed it in. Davidovich Fokina hit a good pass, cross, and de Minaur sort of had to reach at it, but he made the volley into the open court. The second one, I mean, this is the one as well. Obviously, the third is the closest that he got, and that's the most excruciating. But even the second, I thought one of these guys was gonna miss. We got into an extended rally. ADF, I'm pretty sure hit the baseline, clipped the baseline like two, three times in the rally. I thought one of them was gonna miss either way, whether Demons reply off of them or ADF. I thought one of those maybe was gonna miss the line, but both of them just kept the rally going. Demon absorbed all of it. And then the first chance that he got, forced the air with a backhand down the line. Just nails, man, in under pressure. And then, yeah, I don't think for the third championship point, like literally, it's Demonor and Alcaraz. Nobody else is keeping this point alive. I mean, Davidovich Fokina again got his teeth into the rally, and the first chance he got, exactly the right shot. A ball that's dropped slightly short, just ripped it up the line, followed it in, and all Demonor could do was just, flail at it and throw up a lob. Anyone that watches the match knows that this ball clipped the sideline by 16 millimeters. Is that close to Davidovich Fokina winning it? And I mean, yeah, only a handful of guys on tour right now have the speed to get this ball back. Maybe ADF could have taken it out of the air as an overhead. Probably would have been a difficult overhead anyways, but he let it drop, barely dropped in, and the ball that he hit wasn't even that bad, honestly. He followed the next ball into net, approached up the line. Demonor just so fast, hit a great pass, to make Davidovich Fokina hit a tough volley. That ball sat up a little bit more. Still wasn't an easy pass to like flick by because ADF was guessing line, and yeah, Demon just made the right call, flicked it cross behind him for the winner. And yeah, this game right here is where he won the match, and it's enough. Even though ADF, yeah, he gagged from 5-3 love, and then again, he did well to let himself see a breaker, get another hold down, but played a really poor breaker after hitting the great backhand up the line. I think at 1-2. But I can't even blame him. You can't blame him. I mean, over and over and over again, he asked the questions of Demonor, and at that point, I feel like in addition to the mileage physically, earlier this week he took out Taylor Fritz in a match that finished around 2 a.m. and then took out Shelton the day less than 24 hours after, and then had to come back the next day and play the final. So I don't know. Looked a little bit gassed by the end. Had to be just mentally deflated as well the moment he got down a little bit in the tiebreaker. But just off of that 4-5 game, I mean, what could he have done better? You can't really point to anything, and yeah, that just makes it all the more just excruciating of a beat for ADF. And this is a guy now that, yeah, he's I think just outside the top 20 with this result, and again, it's been a career year for him. And this was he did a lot of really good work beating who he did this week to make the final and then play the final as well as he did. I thought going in that Demonor was going to be able to, grind him down, and ADF wouldn't even see the type of chances that he had to win this match. So, full credit on his end for that. And, in the race right now, Davidovich Fokina is just outside the top 10. So his race position right now for the year is much better than his actual ranking is. And yeah, I can't imagine, like, this is we only saw it with like Beneteau in our time of going titleless for being such a good player. I think at some point, ADF it'll happen for him. But, it's only going to weigh more and more on his mind, especially, somehow getting even closer here than he did in Delray Beach for an even better win and title. And, he's only improving in the big picture. He's not that far out from top 10 position in the race. So yeah, it's it's just a cruel, cruel beat for him. The tennis gods really just could not let him get over the line after, yeah, after gagging that 5-3 game, I guess. Like, just wouldn't let him have it, even after, all the good work he did the rest of the match to not let it get out of hand on him. But yeah, tennis gods really trying this guy, and yeah, you can't help but not feel bad. The tears afterward were, they were to be expected given all the just misery rolled into one. But uh, I don't know, man. Like, as big picture, he's doing all the right things. Hopefully this'll keep him staying the course, and he can get over the hump. Uh, because he's playing so spectacularly. Much of this year. Uh, and he's come so close on so many occasions to scoring the big win, scoring the title. Uh, you just hope he doesn't get discouraged. It's easier said than done, obviously, but um, yeah, what goes around should come around at some point for the good for him at some point. And that brings us to the Alex de Minaur side. I mean, again, this is also a great week for him in terms of who he beat. Lehechka, um, you know, obviously Mute took out Medvedev, but he took care of that. He took care of Mute pretty well and blunted the Davidovich Fokina storm here in the third set. Uh, and it's great to see, him scoring what is the equivalent to his biggest title. I think he'd won Acapulco a couple times before this. Um, and it gets the upward trajectory that Demon's been on since the beginning of 2024. Sort of had stalled out, I think, since losing that semi to Musetti in Monte Carlo, but should be back on track now. I mean, back in the top 10. And unlike last year, at this point, he should be healthy. Moving forward into this last major portion of the 2025 season. And yeah, he's got himself right back in great position, ranking race wise. Uh, and he said he got lucky in the trophy ceremony. I thought he was absolute class in his speech, and also going to console ADF right before the ceremony started. Um, he said he got lucky, but listen, man, you make your own luck, and I'm telling you, there's only two guys that keep that point alive for the third championship point. Uh, really, really, well deserved win, and one of the better de Minaur wins this year. So it's great to see things back on the up and up for him again. Ever since I think Wimbledon, again, he sort of stemmed the tide on the little bit of fatigue he said he'd been experiencing for the last couple months after his loss at Roland Garros. On to you know Toronto and Cincinnati 2 weeks this year, and we gotta start with the 2 week aspect of this. And I believe I sort of spoke on this once on the channel before, back when it was first becoming a thing in 2023, I want to say. But yeah, two week masters suck, dude. They're awful. They're awful for the players. They're awful for the fans, and you're seeing it. And the Rogers Cup is no doubt going to be probably the number one casualty of this moving forward if we stick to this format. The only good that comes out of it, which is, the real opportunity cost you got to weigh here, is it worth for the tour? Is, more sessions, more tickets, more revenue? Is that worth causing, the type of strain it does on an already, wide spanning and simultaneously very compacted calendar with not many breaks, not many long breaks? I feel like, as it is, since the big three started getting old. Canada has been the one that certainly Djokovic, Federer were skipping more and more as they got into their 30s. And once Nadal stopped playing as well as last was 2019, uh, at least up until 2022, we still saw, the top guys still going there, just not making it. Back end, I think Medvedev, Tsitsipas were still playing back in 2022, but really since, yeah, that 2022 edition, this has been an event that has suffered at the hands of just the turnaround from Wimbledon. Last year it was an Olympics year, and now this year, this was already a thing of big names missing the event, and most to up till 2022, I felt like it was the age thing. You still got the younger top guys were playing there. Last year, Sinner still played, uh, but obviously was hit by the Olympics. And this year, now that it's 2 weeks, like we're going from Wimbledon to Canada as the major tour action, continuing along that track. The gap used to be almost a month. It was about 4 weeks. And now with the 2 week format for both Canada and Cincinnati, it's a little over 2 weeks, which has obviously resulted in a lot of the big names not being present at the Rogers Cup this year. Obviously, Sinner, Alcaraz, Djokovic, Draper, Bublik out. I'm probably missing some, but those are the biggest ones. And yeah, it's probably gonna make for a little bit of a flat viewing experience for most tennis fans. It really is a shame from that perspective. Players just not the top guys not playing the Masters as often is a real bummer because a decade up until the big three got old, like all of them were playing unless injured or deep into the year where burnout starts settling in post US Open. They were pretty much there at every event, and obviously I think it's pretty irrefutable at this point. The guys hit harder than ever now, and there's all the things with the balls that have been a complaint since the pandemic, and how often there's change in that week to week, and it resulting, or at least contributing, all of this really contributing to guys just unable to play these Masters events as regularly. And yeah, these are big ticket events. It shouldn't feel like this, but Canada in particular is going to be hit with, if we continue with this schedule, it's going to be hit with this type of phenomenon where a lot of guys just can't make it. That short a time in between Wimbledon and a Masters event that you have to commit to being in the same venue if you're going to go deep for about 13 days. And that's just asking too much, I think. And on the fan side of things, you're having to now sort of take a shot in the dark when you buy tickets, I feel like, because as opposed to beforehand, if you wanted to watch a particular star, you were sort of banking on them making it to that day, and that's all you had to really worry about. I feel like now that it's like it's more widespread and there's more sessions, draws might be playing every other day. You're hoping that the guy that you want to watch, the player that you want to watch, is in a section in the draw, in addition to having to make it to you on the day that you plan on going to see them. Which, yeah, it really just it muddies things up. I feel like early round action, especially having been going to Cincinnati for really since since '09, all but like 1 year I've been to the tournament, and the early days are the best. I mean, regardless, you're still going to see a lot of action on early round days all around the grounds, but just naturally you're gonna see less matches on any given day that you choose to go to the tournament, unless it's deep in the tournament, obviously for the last couple of rounds. All around, it sucks, and that's not even accounting for the experience as a viewer. It just feels bogged down. It feels a little bit boring. Like the pacing definitely, just takes a little bit of the excitement out of a Masters tournament. Especially, yeah, in contrast to what we've been used to. But obviously, this is the format for the foreseeable future. In all events, but like Monte Carlo and Bercy, I want to say. Uh, which sucks. But I guess that's just the state of affairs right now. Moving on. Let's talk power rankings, because I feel like the rankings right now are it's something that I touched upon a little bit in my Sinner Wimbledon video. I soft launched the take that I kind of feel like this is the most vulnerable, poor top 10 I have ever seen watching tennis. And it's not even the names. It's not that those guys aren't good players, but nobody's really playing particularly well right now. I mean, Sinner Alcaraz aside, like legitimately 3 through like 20, you could have like one great week. Anybody in that little span, even the borderline outside the top 20 guys, you have like one big week right now, and you will see a violent shift in that. That's what Davidovich Fokina at 11 in the race right now is a product of. I mean, it really can flip on a dime right now. And yeah, I mean, you look at how far ahead Sinner Alcaraz are, that's a pretty good tell of that. But yeah, I mean, especially moving back to hard courts now, I don't feel like the rankings are particularly the best indicator of how the hierarchy of the top 10 right now and our contenders for the big titles moving forward are going to shape up. So 1 and 2 are obviously super easy. 1 is Jannik Sinner. Jannik Sinner is going to be the favorite in like every event that he plays, probably up until March next year. He's only played the one hardcourt event in Australia this year, but in doing so continued what has been an all-time run on hardcourts in particular. Last year won both the hardcourt slams. This year won the first hardcourt slam. Last year as well won 2 Masters and the World Tour Finals as well. Not much more expanding needed, and he just won Wimbledon and reasserted his number 1 ranking. Number 2, Carlos Alcaraz, certainly more gettable on this surface than any other, than on the 2 natural surfaces, but just by product of being a generational player and still super young and being in much better physical mental condition than he was, where the Olympics final, Laver Cup Beijing aside last year, pretty much wrecked the remainder of his season. That shouldn't be the case this year. If Alcaraz performs anywhere near as poorly as he did last year this time, then I don't know. There might be some reason for concern, which is to say that I don't think he will be. This should be a pretty easy opportunity for him to better what have to this point been his career best performances at this stretch of the season in 2022 and 2023. Now, that's not to say that he has to win the U.S. Open like he did in 2022. Like I could easily see him not winning the U.S. Open, but still playing better than he did in 22 and 23. This is a great opportunity to do so. I think it's good that he took the time that he needed after Wimbledon. After he's been playing so much, so regularly since April. So I thought he should take all the time that he needs. Skipping Canada, which probably would have been a free title for him. In his chase for getting back number one in his advantageous position right now in the race, but bypassing that, not a bad move at all. It's a very clear top two right now, and a gap for the rest. Number three, I still go Novak Djokovic. Showed tremendous form on hard courts earlier this year, with obviously the big Alcaraz win in Melbourne, and also making his way to a final for what it's worth in Miami. Best of three, doesn't really care that much, hasn't cared that much outside the Olympics since 2023, when obviously throughout the course of that year he was, just a man on a mission, slam record, making up for lost time the previous year, etc., etc., and there was reason to care. He will do as well in Cincinnati as much as he cares if he has a point to prove, like he did coming out of Wimbledon in 2023, to sort of take the momentum back from Alcaraz. Then certainly it'll be tougher now with the stylistic problems he has with Sinner and being 2 years older and a lesser mover at this point. But it wouldn't surprise me at all if he cares in Cincinnati. I would expect him to go deep. That's become his best Masters in his 30s. And it's really a question for him of how much the body is willing to cooperate, because, so often over the better part of the last 2 years, that has certainly come into play for the worse for him and his ability to compete at his best at the back end of these majors. Who knows? There's a very good chance that plays a factor in New York, because we are 7-8 months into the tennis season at that point, and no matter how much that Djokovic has managed to schedule and minimized how much he actually does play in best of three at this point, that just may not matter for a 38-year-old. Thinking of doing a more thorough video on him very soon, but I still think he lands at number three. When the tennis is there for him, he's still the third best in the world in his race position this year. Even if not by a lot, he hasn't played that much. It's pretty much on the back of 3 Grand Slam semifinals. He is the third best player in the world. So, Djokovic 3. Number 4, I go Taylor Fritz. Obviously, had a tremendous close to the year last year from US Open, and while it was a rocky first half of the season, certainly got back on track on the grass and at Wimbledon, making the first semifinal there and putting in a better than most expected showing for himself against Alcaraz. He just continues to raise the ceiling for himself higher than most of us thought possible, and he does it he's done it so often since 2022. So, now that he's healthy, has shaken the ab issue had earlier in the year, he should be right there with Zverev in lingo right now mentally, since Australia, really. I think there's a really good opportunity at hand for Fritz against the rest of the field, to replicate or come close to replicating what he did last year. He gets the 4 spot. 5, I'll say Zverev, kind of by default. I mean, I hope that, I don't know, getting away, doing a little bit of training with Uncle Tony at the Nadal Academy, hopefully that did something for his spirit more than anything, because I don't know, technically Zverev is what he is. I don't know what Uncle Tony can really do any major changes for him. There's not much to be done. He is what he is. He's come super close when he's firing on all cylinders, But he hasn't been firing on all cylinders lately. Obviously, it seems that most of that is tied to just being in a bit of a mental funk that extends beyond tennis, as he revealed in his presser at Wimbledon. You hope for his sake that with an earlier than expected loss at Wimbledon, it could help reset his spirits. Maybe he's fresher. Uh, just with how tough it's been for him going deep as routinely as usual since Australia. Maybe he's fresher than he was a year ago, where that was a problem for him at this point in the year, and can set things right. He's obviously excellent. Hard courts, sorry, not grass is the only place that not really that close, but grass and sorry, clay and hard courts. He's right there when he's at his very best. Let's see what he can do. Certainly, as we get back onto hard courts, I would anticipate him being more of a factor again at some point soon. Number 6, Jack Draper. Again, a guy who started the year so well. You could argue the third best player in the world up through Rome, but obviously was shocked by that Bublik masterclass in the RG fourth round, and then a throwback Marin Cilic performance in the second round. On the grass, never really played up to the expectations for him on grass this year. Even in Queens, didn't play all that well, was on the ropes several times. And yeah, I don't. It's new territory for him as a top player, I guess, handling those expectations back on home soil. But again, this is where he made his mark. This is where it started. The ascent for Draper into becoming a top player started about a year ago here. Made that romp to the semifinals in New York last year. If Jack plays well again, and you could say this for like so many guys again, because they're not playing. Nobody's playing particularly great after the top 3 in the power ranking, rather. I mean, Draper gets back to what he was earlier in the year, and yeah, he's right there. At number 7, Minaur's definitely ascended back, I think, with the title in Washington, D.C. I spoke my piece on his outlook, I think, already. It's most important that he's healthy and refreshed again after he sort of hit a roadblock mid-season this year. With the new and improved Alex de Minaur, he should be going deep, reasonably deep, second week majors and quarters or so of masters on a pretty routine basis. So I have de Minaur 7. 8, it's been, tough for Tommy Paul health-wise. I do hope that with the early exit at Wimbledon that it proves to be the adequate amount of time needed to get right back on the wagon, because he'd been doing quite well up through Roland Garros, obviously quarterfinal there, but got hurt on his way in those 2 mammoth 5-set matches he had to play on his way there, and wasn't back to 100% on the grass. But this is where Paul is a real superstar when he's right, is the hard courts more than any other venue. So, Tommy Paul is right now as good as he probably will get. So hopefully he gets a fair shake of things, as far as health is concerned, and he can put out his best self there, which is a problem. 9, out of respect for the track record, albeit he has not at all played it that way, his results would not suggest that he's still that guy, especially on the hard courts, which is hard to believe. But Daniil Medvedev, I thought he was playing reasonably well. He actually played a pretty reasonably high quality match with Corentin Moutet, another eccentric, talented floater. But losing that match is certain. It's tough. I can't say just because he played a little bit better and it's still ending in bad loss, I guess you would say, in his mind, can really, put him up to where he would have been up, up in the top 3, 4 this time of year, all the way from like 2019 to 2023. Uh, it's been a rough go of it for him, even in his favorite times of year. I don't know how much longer he can be in the conversation for these if things don't change, but yeah, I'll just, again, it's out of respect, a little bit of a lifetime achievement, placing for Medvedev here at 9. 10, you could go anywhere. I'll go Ben Shelton. I was thinking maybe Rublev outside looking in, Musetti also outside looking in, just because Laurie takes a little bit of a step back on the hard courts. But yeah, I'll go Shelton. There's an X factor here. He hasn't really shown out against a top guy since the Alcaraz match at Roland Garros this year. I don't know. It was a bit of a discouraging loss. I think Davidovich Fokina played great, but he wasn't all that competitive. It was a relatively straightforward win for ADF, and back on hard courts, he's obviously a slam riser in the best of 5 format, but I do want to see a little bit more consistency week to week, just beating the guys that you would think he should. He's a big match player, bolstered by American crowds. He should be right there among that second tier of guys. And then I guess real quickly, I also want to touch upon another shakeup, one of, I guess you can say many, relative to how often there's turnover in a player's team. But for Yannick Sinner, one of multiple this year now, with him reinstating Umberto Ferrara as his physio after, infamously how everything went down last summer, and he let him and Giacomo Naldi go in the aftermath of, his whole doping case being publicized. I haven't really talked all that much about it, but I have given my position that I feel like, I felt like the story checked out, enough. I think it sounds reasonable enough. I've got to say though, this is a very, he's moving kind of perplexingly with this, and I don't I don't even say that most of all with uh just how weird a look it is to be going back to a guy that was, in some way complicit to the whole reason why, this whole doping thing around Sinners come under scrutiny. But I will say that, just from a results perspective, his work since the beginning of the year with Marco Panici and Uli Badio, I want to say, from the Djokovic team. Those guys have had Sinner physicality wise, and I'm not even talking about the wins. I'm talking about the results that you can see. With his physique, he looked a little bit bigger on the other end of his 3 month suspension, as well as, seeing him deep into a fifth set, 5+ hours in against Carlos Alcaraz. And he didn't lose that match because, the fuel tank ran empty, as opposed to earlier on in his career, as early as, or as late as last year, even at times. So, those guys had him, I thought, in the best physical shape of his life, in giving better results from that standpoint. And to go away from them, you know, before Wimbledon and now reinstate Umberto Ferrara, it's a perplexing look to me, for sure. Certainly, that's been a point of emphasis, has been, the amount of turnover in Sinner's team over the last year, and Darren Cahill expected to be retiring, at least from, being a part in the coaching capacity as he has been at the end of this year. I don't know. Maybe the guy is just super particular and super familiar with a certain set of people, and he just preferred it that way. Optics be damned. That's the number one thing for me is, the from a results perspective. It's a head scratcher. I don't know. To each his own, I guess. But yeah, that is pretty much everything covered that I wanted to touch upon as we head into the meat and potatoes of this North American hardcourt summer. Looking forward to pumping out content imminently, more content. Hopefully we can get around to that US Open 2010s ranking in the next couple weeks or so. That's certainly something on my agenda. But if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed. If you did, it'd be much appreciated if you could drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Thank you all again so much for watching, and of course, I will see y'all in the next one.